Hey everybody, I'm Angela, and this is a vlog about the last week of NaNoWriMo. Basically, the first few weeks of quarantine were fine, and the distance learning, because I'm a teacher, has been fine. But this week has been a little rough. They've also announced that schools are officially going to be closed until the next year, which we all kind of knew, but now it's official. And then on top of that, I am moving on Saturday. So the place behind me has been sold, not by us. We were just staying here and closing it down. But this place has been closed, so we have to move on hopefully Saturday. Revision is still going really well. I have 4 chapters left of my book, but here, I'll show you. But the hour tracking is going less well. So we've flattened here, and then I love these graphs. So this was the day when I wrote for 12 hours, and everything else has been sad squiggles. I'm like almost done with this part of the revision, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm just hating the hour tracking. I'm in the middle of my very dramatic climax right now, so I just finished up the rewrite, which at this point is mostly retaping for chapter 21, and then I'm moving into 22, and there are 25-ish overall. I should be able to keep the next couple of chapters pretty similar, and then a lot of the resolution scenes need to be either rewritten or written for the first time, so we'll be doing that. It's Saturday, and I'll do a proper update in a bit, but I've been rewriting this scene. Basically, I was rewriting things because I was really confused. Then as I was going, I realized that the reason that I was confused was that I'd skipped to the part where my character came into this room, and it's like an attic, so I was like, wait, how did she get here? And so I spent like probably 5 or 10 minutes trying to like think through the logistics of like, okay, how do I describe getting into the attic, blah, 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 blah. The way she got into the attic was that she teleported, because she can teleport. That's like the whole thing. She's been doing it for 70,000 words at this point. That's how she got to this building. So that's where we're at. So it's still Saturday. I am probably done writing for the day. It's about 8 o'clock, and I got my 2 hours in. We've reached the point where I'm not behind on camp, but I do have to write for the 2 hours every day to make it. So I've given up a lot of ground. I haven't written that much at all in the past several days, and I think that some of it is that time tracking has not been great for me, in this process at least. So much of the time I'm just like looking at the clock instead of getting into the story. But other than that, revisions have been really good. I'm well into the conclusion now. We've got about 3 chapters left. I feel like there's probably a lot that's like not working or not hitting, but it is at the point where I don't know which parts are hitting, which parts aren't. So that's why you have critique partners. I will bring it to them, and they will tell me. 2 of the big things that I'm noticing as I'm going through are that first, I'm overwriting so much in that I'm consistently both telling and showing. So we're going through and we're removing some of that, and we're just leaving mostly the show, occasionally the tell. And the other thing is everyone was really, really aggressive in the first draft. Like, so aggressive, so unnecessarily aggressive. So some of what has happened too is I'm just like going through and making characters chill out. But no one's chill at this point because a bunch of people are dead and everyone's stressed. I'm like in this weird loop where I want to keep writing, but I think I need some space to figure out like what is the direction that this scene is going to go. I'm hoping that once we move into the new house, I'll be able to like reset things and it'll be a little bit easier, but we'll see. I mean, while that's happening, I better be writing 2 hours a day, because you know, I got rid of all of that lead time that the 12-hour write-a-thon got me. So we'll see. So it is Sunday evening, and I just finished writing for the day. It's about 6:30, and I've got other stuff I have to do tonight, so it's as much as I'm going to get. I am officially behind as of yesterday, actually, because I didn't get any writing done yesterday. But that's because I've been moving, and I'm mostly in the new place now. Everything's a mess, but most of my stuff is over here. So I'm going to get probably an hour and a half instead of 2 hours today. And I'm also behind at work and in everything else, but I'm not super overwhelmed, I guess. I've got 11 and a half. I'm like looking at my increasingly sad NaNo graph over there. I've got 11 and a half hours left that I have to write by Thursday. Technically, there are enough hours in the day on Thursday that I could do both work and write. So we've sort of made it. Just finished the 3rd to last chapter, so I've got 2 chapters left. And this one was really challenging in that, like I've mentioned before, it's like a lot of emotional processing, but I was really enjoying it. I don't think it's working, but we've reached the point where I can no longer tell what's not working. And that is very encouraging because that means that I did what I could do with this revision. Feeling pretty good about that. A little apprehensive about the last two chapters because I think it's going to be like similar, heavy, uncertain lifting, but everything's sort of resolving, and then I'm going to go through and do a couple polishing runs, and then I am done with my first revision of a novel. So that is exciting. And even more exciting, I am soon done with counting hours. It is Monday, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I have, according to NaNoWriMo, 10.5 hours of writing left that I need to do by Thursday. I've done nothing today. And we're reaching the point where part of me is like, what if I just didn't win? This is the part where I'm supposed to say no, but I'm going to push through and I'm going to finish, and like, I think that that's true, but that part of me is just not there at all. The thing is, the last couple of days have been like really good and I've been really productive. Like, I'm mostly moved into the new space now, but basically what that's meaning is that like to put sort of my life together, I've been deprioritizing writing, and I'm still writing pretty much every day and making good progress, and I feel really good about where I am. It's just hard to get the motivation for those 10.5 hours over the next 3.5 days. I mean, it's definitely doable. It's just not desirable. It is now Tuesday morning. It's about 11:30, which means lunch break, which means I should be writing again. I got about 40 minutes of writing in this morning where I redid a scene from my last chapter. I completely wrote a new one. The last one like had different people in it, so I don't think this one is great, but I do think it is better, and that is exciting. The problem is, and the reason that we have re-entered into the procrastination zone that is my homeland. Basically, so I rewrote the scene that I knew needed to be rewritten. When I wrote it the first time, I was like, oh, this isn't very good. And now I just have to like live in the mediocrity of it. But more than that, I really don't know what to do. I'm having a really hard time figuring out what order these scenes should be in. There's like another scene that I need to write, but I don't have any idea what that should look like. I just know that I need another piece of resolution. Like, I'm not going to be able to rewrite this chapter in a way that makes it good right now. And I just need to accept that. Like, I need other people looking at this and telling me what's working and what's not before I can make the wrap-up part work. It's just really hard to get into a thing that I know is bad. But that's okay, right? This is how we learn. Future Angela here, because the next part of the video actually got corrupted, which would be fine, except that in the next segment, I actually finished my write-through, which is very exciting. I'm still honestly pretty excited about it. Major takeaways in that portion of the video. 1, novels are really long. Like, I'd known this, but because I've only done it the one time, once I finished the draft, it was pretty easy to forget how much it had been. And it wasn't until I was going through again, rewriting the whole thing, that I fully appreciated the scale of the thing that I was doing. I'm hoping that as I now move into my next novel, I'll have a better sense of that, but we'll see what happens. This might be a lesson that takes a while to learn. At this point, I also had 6.5 hours left for my NaNo goal, and I talked a little bit about how really finishing this write-through, or this rewrite of my novel, felt more like my NaNo goal. So it felt more like this was my NaNo goal and not the 60 hours, but I still sort of needed the 60 hours to win, which I was less enthused about, but still sort of moving towards. That was about it. I finished the rewrite. There were a lot of things that still didn't work, but that's where I was at, and now back to your regularly scheduled vlogging. It is Wednesday, and I am now officially beginning my sort of initial second pass. Basically, I've been considering sort of backburnering this and starting to move on to other projects, and then coming to it every couple of weeks and editing for my critique group, and then taking, and like once I get the feedback on those chapters, making the changes. And I'm thinking that that probably is going to be the right call. Like, I'm going to try these 6.5 hours for NaNoWriMo's sake, and I think it's a useful experiment, but I am thinking that probably having done the rewrite, now I should bring it into my critique group. And I would maybe feel differently if I had like beta readers that I was like giving the whole thing to, but I don't have beta readers that I'm giving the whole thing to. The rewrite was needed and the rewrite addressed some serious problems, but I think that this original opening to the story was stronger. That's depressing because the new opening kind of sucks. Even though I think the chapter as a whole is better. So I just finished the sort of polishing revision of my first chapter. Basically, having written it, I feel a lot better. The first couple paragraphs were pretty weak, and I went through and I reworked those. I think a lot of what I was having trouble with was just that it was different. Obviously, like, than the original version, so looking at the old version and then looking at the new version was really overwhelming, which honestly is part of the reason why I went through and essentially rewrote it, where I was like actually rewriting a good amount and then was retyping a whole bunch more, because I just find it so much easier to make changes if I have like the general sense in my head than if I am sort of tinkering with the stuff that's already there. I will say I had a much easier time like entering the flow state and sort of being chill about revision than I have writing, which is very exciting. But yeah, I am so close to both putting this project on the back burner and shifting to other things and being done with Nano, and all of that is very exciting. I'm excited to show this to people. I'm hoping that A, I've made it better than when they saw it last, and B, they can give me some feedback to continue improving. It is Thursday, which means it's the last day of NaNoWriMo. I've been writing for about 2 hours. I've got about 3 hours left before I meet my goal for camp, so I think I'm gonna do it. I can't lose when I'm that close, unless I had a good reason, which I don't. I have finished going over my first 2 chapters, and I've gotten them already from my critique group and sent that off. My critique group's going to be getting it in like 5,000-ish word chunks every 2 weeks, because that's how we operate. So, given that that's the case, it seems like it makes more sense for me right now to sort of edit and incorporate their feedback as I go, especially just because this is practice. Like, there are things that I could change, and it's actually fun as I'm going back through. I'm like seeing things that I'm like, oh, I could carry that through, and that would make the world richer, and that would make these characters feel realer. But it's stuff that is like work, but I know how to do. And because I'm intending this as a trunk novel, like, as much as I love it and like I want to make it better, it's also a thing where it's hard for me to justify that. That said, I just found... So at the bottom of chapter 3, there were like all of these notes, and for a minute I was worried that I hadn't finished the chapter, because this was one of the ones that I like basically rewrote from scratch. But it turns out I just had a very detailed outline that I left there. I did have a moment where I was like, oh, what I'm going to do with these 3 hours is actually write this chapter. I apparently didn't write, past me did write this chapter, which I'm grateful for. Especially because I was like, but that felt like the end of a chapter. Why is so much else supposed to happen? Hopefully the next time I talk to y'all, I will have one. That would be nice. All right, it is Thursday, April 30th at 7:30 p.m. and I am officially done with Camp NaNoWriMo. So I set out to write 60 hours, and I mostly did that. We've tweaked slightly here at the end. I started editing my 3rd chapter that's not going to my writing group this week, and it didn't feel useful to me to be like practicing that editing skill in that way. Like, I would rather get my feedback back from my critique partners for those first 2 chapters and then make changes to those, and then sort of polish and prepare my next set of chapters for submission then. Instead, I adjusted things for my last like 3 hours that I still needed to get, because I basically finished the revision. What I decided to do instead was that I was allowed to listen to like Brandon Sanderson's writing lectures again, as long as I was also unpacking. And I am really happy that I made that decision. I really like Nano, but I like Nano as like something that's sort of flexible and that I'm in conversation with. So I want to be pushed by Nano, but only as long as that's like serving me. And at this point, the thing that I really needed to do was to unpack. So that worked really well. I'm like actually officially completely moved in. It felt like the right balance. I finished my revision, which is amazing. I definitely had sort of mixed feelings about this camp, which I think most people did, both because of like the website and then also because of the general state of the world. But overall, I'm glad I did it. It was really positive. And like, some people might feel like it's cheating that I changed. Part of me feels that way. But here's the deal. I am now completely moved in, and there are things that otherwise would be on the ground for months. And I got to listen to Brandon Sanderson's lectures, which I always really like, and is a lot of fun. I finished it up with the last writing excuses episode because I ran out of lectures, which was about asexual representation. So now I have a lot of emotions around that. It's super cool that they're doing that. I feel like ace stuff is still in a place where I don't even expect to have representation. So that's nice. I do feel a little bit ambivalent about parts of it, but I think that is okay in this conversation and is all of those things. Shoot, I guess I should wrap up this vlog. So yeah, let me know if you did NaNoWriMo, how it went in the comments, and if you're planning on doing the camp in July. I don't know, it's maybe soon to be thinking about that. But yeah, let me know if that is a thing that you were thinking about. If you liked this video, go ahead and let me know by hitting the little thumbs up. And thank you all so much for watching. Happy writing. Bye, loves.